Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Devil's Own podcast. As ever, I'm joined by Bradley. How are you, Bradley?
I'm good, thanks, Asa. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So today we thought we'd do a little podcast marking the day, 2 years ago today, that Crawley lifted the trophy at Wembley as they were promoted to League One. I'm sure that was a very special day in all Crawley Town fans' memory. Bradley, what was your memories of that day, sort of getting up, getting there and all the sort of celebrations?
Yeah, I mean, I said to Jack from the minute we made the playoffs that if we got to Wembley we would go, so we'd been looking forward to that. We took the train up. You couldn't move on the train. We happened to be in the same carriage as a drummer, so there was a lot of noise all the way up to Clapham Junction, and a lot of people got off at Clapham Junction and went across to Wembley that way. We carried on up to Victoria and then took the tube across to Wembley. We had a good time sort of milling around outside the ground. It was a nice atmosphere. It was a really sort of fun place to be. Unlike today as well, the weather was absolutely stunning that day. So I remember getting very sunburnt because we were in the first few rows and there was no sort of covering. And it was just an amazing day. I mean, to be at Wembley was great anyway. For it to be for Crawley Town, I mean, I've never seen so many Crawley Town fans. I don't know where they all came from. You know, they certainly haven't been back since, have they? A lot of them. But it was a great day, and even in the build up, sort of seeing, the Sky Sports presenters on the pitch, and there was some kids football that went on before and stuff like that. It was just the most amazing day, and yeah, one that will probably. I'd love to see it repeated, but at the same time, I would always rather go up via the automatic places.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, we went to Wembley once. No one can ever take that away that we were there the first time. And we've got a 100% win rate at Wembley, right?
Amazing. So we are going to run through the players that started and the players that came on and sort of see where they are now. But firstly, I've got a little quiz for you, Bradley. So cool. I want you to try and name the starting 11 that started against Crewe, and then all the players that came on, and then for a bonus point, sort of the order in which those substitutes came onto the pitch.
Okay. I reckon I can get 9 out of the 11, and the subs I'm going to maybe struggle with. So it was Corey Adai in goal.
Correct.
Will Wright.
Correct.
Lawrence Maguire.
Correct.
Dion Conroy. As we played sort of a back three, didn't we, with wing backs. I don't think Kellen Gordon started that game. Jeremy Kelly.
Correct.
Jay Williams.
Correct.
Clyde Lolos.
Correct.
Orsi. Liam Kelly. How many am I missing?
I think you're missing 2.
So I've got 9. Right, okay. Did Harry Forster start that game? I'm going to say Harry Forster.
No. So he got injured in the second leg against NK Dons.
That's right. So did Addy start?
No.
No. Okay. Who would... Nick Cerula?
No.
Wow. I'm stumped. That's terrible.
You said his name.
I've already said his name, have I? That's
Kellen Gordon.
Kellen Gordon did start. Okay, so Kellen did start.
And then one more.
Give me the position on the pitch. Come on, it's got to be left back.
Attacking midfielder. Just in behind.
Oh, Ronan Darcy?
No.
No, he didn't start. Wow, okay. Who would have been behind?
Geordie.
Adam Campbell, of course.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. And then we've got substitutions. Who came on?
The order is no good. And hands up, I've not cheated, right? So I've not Googled it as we've been talking about it. I'm going to say Harry Forster came on. No, he was injured. Who came on? Rowan Darcy came on.
Yeah, he was the first.
He was the first. Who else? It wasn't the deepest of squads. It was just a good team. Who else would have come on? Did Adiemo come on?
Yep, he was second to come on.
Oh, I'm in order here. How many subs did we make that day?
4, so you've got 2 more left.
2 more to go. Ben Gladwin didn't come on, did he? He was injured.
Probably. No, he didn't come on. You said one of them already.
Said one of them already. That's even worse, isn't it? Nick Cerula.
Yeah, he was the last one to come on. And then there's one more.
I've no idea, Asa. Me sitting here in silence isn't a great podcast, is it? So you're going to have to put me out my misery.
Jack Rolls.
Jack Rolls, of course he did.
Yeah.
The perennial substitute that is Jack Rolls.
Exactly. So we'll go from Corey Adai. So obviously he was with us for a couple of seasons before moving on to Stockport County in that summer. So what did you make of how much he progressed during his time at Crawley?
He progressed massively. I think when he first came in, I vaguely remember someone saying to me, he looks like a basketball player, right? And he was a bit like that in his sort of first year, 6 months to a year. He looked a little shaky. In the promotion season, he became a really commanding kind of number one, whereas I think in his first sort of season and a bit, he pushed for the number one, but he was never quite the out and out number one. Obviously, in the promotion season, I mean, he was an amazing shot stopper. Right? I remember him saving penalties along the way, and I think, I'm old enough to remember sort of Euro '96 and that great Arsenal team that had sort of Seaman, Adams, Bold, Keown. It felt very much like we had a really stable back three, and then Corey behind them, commanding that space. And something we've lacked a bit since Corey left. Jacob Chapman had it, and I think he instilled that confidence in the guys in front of him. So yeah, I mean, look, he was outstanding, and there was a period around January where I thought there might be a shout that he comes back, because he wasn't a nailed-on starter for Stockport. And look, I mean, he's had a similar period at Stockport that he had in his first year at Crawley, where he's been a bit in and out the team over the past 2 seasons. He's not been able to kind of really make that number one spot his own at Stockport at times. But great.
Yeah, but 100%. And I think obviously Stockport have made the playoffs now, so they're looking to get promoted to the Championship, and now obviously he's their number one. So good luck to him in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
So we next move on to Will Wright. He joined us from Gillingham. I thought he's very versatile in terms of he also stepped into midfield at times for us. I thought he was a good outlet, both defensively, and also he added a bit of sort of attacking threat as well in the box. And I thought he was a good all-round player. What did you make of him during his season at the club?
I really like Will Wright, and I was quite surprised that he chose a move to stay in League Two when we went into League One, because I felt like it was a natural progression for him. He, as a defender, he was very solid on that right-hand side of the back three, can hit a dead ball as well. He was a great free kick taker, something we've not really replaced either. I think definitely this season in particular, there's corners, free kicks, whatever it may be. It's been dead balls have been a slight issue. I agree with you. He could definitely cause chaos in the opposition box from corners and, sort of throw-ins and things. Yeah, I mean, look, I really like Will Wright, and he will forever live on in folklore in my mind, because if he didn't make that goal line clearance in the first leg in about the first 10 minutes, it all looks very different going into the second half of that game. So, look, Will Wright is available on free transfer at the moment. Just saying.
He is, yeah. He's been released by Swindon after their sort of narrowly missed out on the playoffs.
And
but
did share the Wembley Crawley Town post today on Instagram.
He did, yeah. Maybe a little hint there.
And has been seen whilst at Swindon in the gym in Crawley Town training gear. So, just saying.
Hint there, maybe. But yeah, no, you said it there. I think one of the memories that sort of remind me the most about Will Wright was that block off the line, because ultimately that's a completely different game should that go in. So yeah, I was a big fan of Will Wright, but obviously he was one of the players that had his contract expired at the end of the year. That he's been with us for about 3 or 4 seasons now. I think he's an interesting topic. Because
he is an interesting topic. He is an interesting
Go on,
topic.
you elaborate, Bradley, on that.
I mean, look, obviously, captains the side, was a real rock at that time in defence, looked a real player. Got injured at the start of, or just before the League One campaign started. And then we didn't see him. I think his first game back in League One was against Birmingham. And he came straight in the side. And I remember thinking that's really, really risky against, at the time, Birmingham had just spent £15 million on their strike force. And he had an amazing game against Birmingham and didn't look out of place in League One at all. Very, very tough season for him this year. I mean, he didn't listen. The whole team wasn't great at the start of the season. Obviously, Dion being the captain took a lot of the brunt of that. I was at the Boreham Wood game and he was exceptionally poor that day, as were a lot of the players, it's fair to say. And he never quite recovered from that. Obviously, we then get into having a spat with the fans, and he's a bit outspoken on social media at times. And so obviously he's still at the club. Whether there's a way for him to kind of reintegrate under Colin and with the current group, we'll wait and see. But he's a difficult one because he was great in that promotion season, but I felt like last season I would have preferred to have seen more of Ben Radcliffe than Dion Conroy, because I didn't think Dion was delivering, and at times I feel like he only kept his place because he had the armband. So he's a slightly divisive character at times. I think he's very Marmite among the support. People love him or they hate him. He either has a kind of 8 out of 10 game or he has a 4 out of 10 game. He's not necessarily consistent. But that would probably be the highlight of his career so far. Would obviously be that Wembley run and then lifting the trophy. It's just a shame that it all turned a little bit sour after that.
Yeah, I think Scott paid a lot of loyalty towards Dion, and I think maybe he extended his stay or starting place in the squad longer than maybe he should have for the benefit of the team. But you can't take it away. Obviously, as you said, he was brilliant in that promotion season. It's gone a little bit downhill from there. And obviously the scenes between both the fans and himself aren't great. Obviously he hasn't been involved in the squad since then, but he's still a player that's under contract with the club. So it'd be interesting to see what happens next season. And obviously, we touched on it in our
in our retained and released podcast, obviously Scott Malone played in the back three quite a lot as a centre back, second half of the season. Am I right in thinking that Dion wasn't registered in the squad after January, or was he still a registered player?
Yeah, he was removed from the EFL registered list. I think he sort of upset a few people within the Crawley camp. So
Colin hasn't necessarily had the chance to kind of reintegrate him yet, is what I mean.
No.
Sort of, obviously, we saw Ryan Loft come back in, but if Dion wasn't on the EFL squad list, we didn't have cup games, we didn't have Virtue Trophy games, so we wouldn't have been able to kind of see him in the back end of the season. So, I mean, look, we'll see. I mean, pre-season is always a fresh start for everyone and an opportunity to kind of start again, isn't it? So we'll see. I mean, look, congratulations to him, because I saw on Instagram that he's just got married. We'll see. I mean, look, no one should be held back because of a mistake. And, at that point in the season where he had the spat with the fans, it wasn't a great look in the middle of a game necessarily. At the same time, I don't think as a support group generalisation we were necessarily behind the team enough and stuff. So let's see where that goes.
Well, maybe they are trying to get a good bit of money for him in the summer potentially. Hopefully maybe someone will come in, because he is experienced.
He's definitely experienced, and you think about some of the teams coming up into League Two, or even some of the teams coming up into the National League. I don't think, from a budget standpoint, I don't think the gap between the National League and League Two is as huge as it once was. So actually, for someone like maybe a Rochdale or a York to bring in a bit of Football League experience at the back is not necessarily a bad thing. Like you, I've heard murmurs and rumours that he's been told that he's not needed at Crawley Town, but that was under the previous management. So let's wait and see what happens moving forward, and go from there.
Yeah. So Lawrence Maguire completed that back three at Wembley. Obviously, he was on loan from Chesterfield during that season, and we were unable to obtain his signature on a permanent basis, and then he was one of the many to join NK Dons.
Yeah, that was a strange one for me, because obviously we all know his brother is, and his brother was at Wembley that day, hiding in a box somewhere. It was a strange one, because when he came in at the start of the season, obviously at that point Chesterfield were in the National League. So for him to come in on loan from the National League to League Two, I found strange. I always thought it was strange that we didn't just buy him outright. And then if I remember rightly, at the end of that season, his contract at Chesterfield had expired. So he was available on a free. I felt for sure we were going to go for him, because he had played so much football. Very, very similar player to Josh Flint in that promotion season. He stepped forward. He came out of that back three a lot. So, Will Wright and Dion Conroy would stay and allow Maguire to play as almost kind of like a left wing back. He would step into that role and play balls forward. I mean, he had a great distribution on him. I was disappointed that obviously he went to MK Dons rather than stay. If he stays, maybe we don't see Josh Flint in a Crawley shirt. So I don't know. Again, it seems strange to me that he wouldn't want to at least have a crack at League One, but stayed in League Two. Obviously, we know MK Dons obviously got a lot of investment that summer. So I'm assuming, I'm never going to judge anyone for bettering themselves financially, right? We all go to work because we need to earn money. And football's no different. But struggled at MK Dons, has had a lot of injuries. So I don't know, maybe there were signs of that. Maybe maybe he was just one of those players that, you know, whether Scott underwagged me, obviously we were into the kind of data approach. Maybe there was something in that data that just didn't lend itself to Lawrence Maguire being a League One footballer at the time. Again, he's available on a free transfer now, but he has had his injury problems. So it will be interesting to see where he turns up. But I think, you know, he was such a big part of that team, and he was such a big character. And even on the Monday night when we had, or the Tuesday night, whatever it was, when we had the celebration at the stadium, you know, he was a big part of that. And he never really felt like a lone player. That was what was always a bit strange. So, yeah, big fan. Gutted for him that it didn't work out at MK Dons. But I think most of, bar Liam Kelly, it didn't work out for anyone really. But we'll get to him, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he brought a real sort of solidity to the defence. I thought he was a very solid player. And like you said, I think he was that person who sort of got forward as well, down the left-hand side, and really drove us on. I thought he's a big aerial threat as well. Famous for the slab head chant as well.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And look, under Scott, that was definitely a way of play, right? So the left-sided centre-back would step into almost kind of a midfield role and ping a ball. It almost reminded me like Toby Alderweireld at Tottenham. He would be able to do that. And then when Lawrence left, obviously we brought in Josh Flynn, and we played a similar style. So Charlie and Dion would stay back, and Josh Flint will fill into that role and will run on. So there was definitely a kind of a desire for that to happen, and he did it brilliantly. But yeah, Slabhead. I always love it. You've got Larry and Harry. I mean, it must have been fun growing up in their house. But yeah, I mean, look, disappointed, like I say, and I think the one thing to caveat all of this with is, you know, all these guys go down in folklore, right? They will forever be woven into the history of the club now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, whether he comes back on a free, we'll have to wait and see. But I think he is getting on now. He is 29, and maybe he's lost a yard of pace as well. So back free might not.
As someone that's definitely older than 29, thanks for that, Ace. I appreciate
that. So now moving swiftly on to Jeremy Kelly. I love
Jeremy.
What a player! What a player! The way he weighted a pass, his passing range, his technique and ability was just another level. And as Scott used to say, the best player in the world.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So
as you know, I sit in the front row in the East Stand, and I would regularly shout, "Jeremy Kelly, you're the best player in the world," and he would laugh. I was devastated when he left. I mean, he was by far my favourite player out of that team. And when he came in, I don't know who found him. I don't know where they found him. I don't know what data churned up Jeremy Kelly. But my God, what a guy. I mean, he came in only the second half of the promotion season, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
And he had such an impact and became a nailed-on starter, and played in a variety of different positions as well. So he could fill in at wing-back, he could play obviously more advanced. I think at the start of our League One campaign, he was in a 10. And you're right, his weight of pass, we definitely have missed since he's moved on to wherever he went back in the States. And the other thing I think sometimes goes a little bit unnoticed since he moved on this season is he was one of very few players in our team and in League Two that could switch the play. We don't have we're not graced with a lot of players that can switch it from one wing to another and get it spot on, particularly at the Broadfield, right? It's not the widest pitch. So you have to have that weight of pass perfect. Popped up with goals, would run at people, was terrifying. Probably in all reality, looked way too good for kind of League Two. I I remember the announcement video when he extended his contract for League One, with the post going on UPS or wherever out to the States and him answering the door. Gutted. Was delighted that he stayed into League One, and I think he proved that he wasn't sort of a flash in the pan, because I would say he was probably our best player in League One as well. So yeah, disappointed that he moved on, but yeah, what a guy. And I mean, he would probably get into my all-time Crawley 11, and a lot of that Crawley Town 11 would be the kind of Matt Tubbs, Sergio Torres sort of era of football, for what they achieved with the back-to-back promotions, the FA Cup run. He would definitely get a place in that side for me. I mean, I still think we miss him.
Oh yeah, 100%. I thought the way he was able to carry the ball as well through the pitch, the way he was able to cut inside. I also thought he sort of played a variety of positions. He sort of played in sort of a 10 role, in terms of he played quite attacking at times. He also played in the double pivot, and he also played as a wing back, where he was able to cut inside the pitch. And I thought, as you said, the way he was able to switch a ball, deliver a cross
as well. He could hit the ball with both feet. He could tackle. I mean, I suppose the only thing I was really surprised about was he didn't move into an MLS side. Obviously, he went into the division under the MLS, because the MLS isn't a fantastic league. So I would have thought there would still be some teams and that could use a player like Jeremy Kelly. It's a shame, but it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I think since he's moved on to Charleston Battery,
that's it. Yes,
be closer to home. But yeah, maybe, who knows? Will we see him back?
Be nice, wouldn't it?
Certainly welcomed. So next is Liam Kelly.
Oh man,
we signed him from Rochdale, who were relegated that season, and what a player he proved to be.
Yeah,
Just in the middle of the park. Brilliant technique. Similar, he had a great passing range, similar to Jeremy Kelly, the other one. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Liam Kelly?
Yeah, Liam, I was aware of Liam Kelly from his kind of Reading days, and then he went over to Holland for a bit, didn't he? Didn't sort of quite work out there, but I think obviously he was at Reading under Yapstam, and then Yapstam took him to, was it Feyenoord? And he didn't quite make, I think he made a handful of first team appearances, but he never quite made it there. So when he came in, I was surprised that we could get a player of that calibre. Similar to when we brought Josh Flint in, to be fair, because he had taken a similar sort of route. I didn't think he was going to be as good as he was. He was almost Moussa Dembele, Patrick Vieira, like in that six. He could get the ball and he could turn and he could play a pass. And something we've lacked a little bit since he went is we don't always look forward with a pass. We do more under Colin, but under Scott and under Rob Elliott, it seemed like the initial pass always seemed to be sideways or backwards. Whereas Liam Kelly could do that. He could thread a ball through for Orsi to run onto. So he was very much a kind of deep line playmaker as well. Obviously could pop up with a goal, did in the final, from a very, very strange angle. As well. I know he got 2 bites at it, to be fair, but yeah, I mean, look, what a player, right? And yeah, unfortunately has gone to MK Dons, excelled there. I think he's been their player of the season, both seasons that he's been there. Obviously they're now on their way into League One, so I don't think we'll see him back. Was a hell of a character around the ground and around the dressing room, and emceed the celebrations at the Broadfield that night, probably under the influence of a few beers, but yeah, so it was disappointing when he went, but again, I think he was always going to kind of make the next move after that promotion season. But again, it was disappointing that I suppose I got the frustration from the fans that a lot of those players were choosing to stay in League Two rather than give it a crack in League One. But obviously, a few went to MK Dons. Scott then went to MK Dons. It didn't really work out, so they probably spent an extra season in League Two than they were anticipating.
Yeah, obviously been since going there, he's been a big part of MK Don's team. Obviously, they finished second this season, now promoted to League One. So, yeah, he's obviously done well since going on, and probably had a bit of a pay rise as well. So I'm sure he's not complaining. But then we move on to Jay Williams, who is a current Crawley player, but not without a little break in between.
Yeah, Jay's an interesting one, isn't he? Because I think in that promotion season, I put money on him getting booked every week. He feels a little bit more controlled now with the armband. A little bit more disciplined, maybe a little bit more grown up, a little bit more experienced. In that promotion season, he was the enforcer, wasn't he? If he would get the ball and give it to Liam Kelly, and Liam Kelly would invariably distribute the ball. I don't think I've seen Jay Williams lose too many headers in his career. I've definitely never seen anyone wear as much bandage as that man did in League Two this year. He put literally every bit of himself on the line for us this year. But yeah, look, every great team needs an unsung hero. If you go back through some of the greatest teams to play in the Premier League, your Arsenal Invincibles, you had Gilberto Silva in the middle. The great Man United teams under Ferguson, you had people like Nicky Butt in there. You need people in there to do the kind of dirty work. The old term was water carrier. Sort of carry the team, carry the load, and free up the other 10 players to do what they need to do. And Jay took on a slightly different role towards the back end of our League Two season this year, where he was a little bit more advanced. But in that promotion season, and particularly under Scott, he was the guy that would drop into the back three when Maguire or Flint would move forwards. So, I think they often describe him as a pivot. I don't like that term because I don't think that's necessarily a true reflection of what people do. But yeah, look, you've got to have them, right? You can't. We've seen Real Madrid over the years try and build these teams of Galacticos. Every great team needs a Casemiro or an N'Golo Kante type player in there to kind of do that sort of a job, and Jay does that for us. Obviously, I think there was a personality clash between him and Rob Elliott. And obviously he moved to MK Dons with Scott at the time. Came back in the summer. He was the first sort of old face to return. Was fantastic for us at the start of the season. And no disrespect to Dion Conroy, got better once he was given the club captaincy. I think he was. He led by example back into this season, and that was not an easy thing to do at times in that team. So I hope he stays over this summer. I'm sure there'll be people looking at him, but hopefully, I'm sure Colin sees him as an integral part. And Jay's maybe already had that experience where the grass isn't necessarily always greener on the other side.
Yeah, I definitely think he matured as a player over his time with the club. Obviously, yeah, he had that break where he went to MK Dons, had a bit of a falling out with Rob Elliott, our manager at the time. He didn't necessarily have that successful of a time at MK Dons either. Only played a handful of games before coming back. So, yeah, definitely one I'd like to remain at the club. I think he's someone you can sort of rely on. He definitely gives everything for the badge as well. Someone who's very passionate. So you need that sort of personality within the team, for sure.
Definitely.
Kellen Gordon, another player who is currently a Crawley Town player, but did leave following the promotion season. He went off to Notts County for a couple seasons, struggled to really cement a place there, had a few struggles with injuries, and then returned in January permanently as part of the putting the band back together movement. What did you think?
Right, let's start with the promotion season. I mean, he was a bit in and out of the team over that period. He was never a nailed-on starter in that starting 11, I don't think. Like I said, Jeremy Kelly would do that role sometimes. Harry Forster could play there as well. So Kellen wasn't necessarily a nailed-on starter in that team. He'd had some injury problems in the run-up towards the kind of playoff run as well. My view at that time was he was just a kind of steady Eddie, and when he moved on, I wasn't surprised, because I felt like that was maybe an obvious area that we needed to strengthen, because it hadn't necessarily been our strongest position in that run, and he had some injury problems, and so I wasn't hugely surprised that he moved on. He was probably, in fairness, I've said this before on ours and on another podcast that I may or may not have featured on. I was probably least excited about Kellen coming back in January, only because I don't think he played enough at Notts County. He'd had a lot of injury problems, and like I say, he wasn't Orsey in the kind of promotion squad, right? But that said, he came in and I would say, along with Jay, put everything on the line for the club. Was one of the best performers in the second half of the season for us. Scored a great goal against Swindon. Constantly looked a threat down the right-hand side for us. And we really missed him when he got injured. And I'm really excited to get a fit Kellen back next season, because I think if he can stay fit, he can really nail on that right back position and kick on. And I think we definitely saw last season, if he can get a run of games, he grows in stature and in confidence. Yeah, I mean, promotion season, he wasn't really on my radar massively, but definitely been really, really impressed with him since he came back.
Yeah, definitely. I think he was the best out of the quartet that came back. I think he's very good at getting balls into the box. He gets up and down the flanks really well. I think something, unfortunately, was we didn't really have people in the box to put the ball home, and that's where a lot of his crosses sort of were a bit useless in that sense.
Yeah, and he didn't really get enough football under Colin because of injury when we started playing sort of the two up top and the slightly more attacking football. So there's an outlet there, and I think looking at the back end of this campaign under Colin, I would be quite excited to be going into a season with Kellen as the right wing back or right back, whatever system Colin chooses to play, and Johnny Russell on the left hand side. I think, they were the two players that really grew into the season as time went on.
Yeah, definitely. And I think next season, if we go to a back four, I think Kellen playing at right back gives Addy the opportunity to play higher up, because obviously Colin is a big fan of Addy, and obviously he wants him in the squad. So I think a back four would suit both getting him and Addy both in the team. But yeah,
great.
I mean, we're unsure about whether what sort of system he's going to play, but we'll have to wait on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I say, we'll wait and see where that takes us.
Adam Campbell, the Geordie, I thought
strange. I mean, that I felt that was it's a strange one, because Adam Campbell is, for anybody that has ever sat and watched Jeff Stelling on Soccer Saturday, Adam Campbell's name constantly seemed to pop up with a goal when he was at his previous clubs. I'm old enough to remember him sort of coming through at Newcastle. He didn't quite have the sort of impact. It didn't quite work out. But he made quite a good career for himself in the lower leagues. It was a strange one, because he came into us and he sort of played in a slightly deeper role. He played in a sort of 10, which seemed to go against everything he had done previously in his career. I'm sure there was a reason that was the case. He was effective without being exceptional. He was sort of a good sort of 6, 7 out of 10 every week. Didn't really excite enough, and on the games when he didn't start, if he came on, he didn't really influence or change games too much. I was surprised he started the final over Darcy, if I'm honest, given Darcy had played a lot of football that season. Wasn't particularly surprised that he moved on. And I think, did he stay in League Two, or did he go back into the National League?
He went to Hartlepool in the National League for sort of a move closer to home.
Yeah.
He came down from Gateshead.
That's right.
But yeah, I thought, I mean, you touched on it there. He wasn't one of those standouts from the promotion side, but he was just always there. He always popped up with a goal and an assist. He was just, I think, he had a good run in the team where he sort of picked up some consistency in terms of in front of goal. But yeah, no, I agree with you in terms of him starting over Darcy was a bit of a surprise. But I thought he's another player that's on a free transfer. I think he's been released by Hartlepool this summer. But yeah, I don't think he'll be coming back.
No, and I don't. It's a strange one, because you get these players sometimes that obviously move on and it doesn't quite work out. Dom Telford's another one that sort of sticks in my mind. I know he wasn't in the sort of promotion team. Obviously moved to Barrow, hasn't really worked out, and has ended up kind of back in non-league. I think Adam Campbell that's probably going to be the pinnacle of his career, right? I don't think, his age now, he's going to be getting a move sort of back into League Two or League One, maybe.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's getting to that age where, you see it where a lot of players sort of at that age will drop back into National League at that stage of their career. But Clydie Lolos, a player who returned in the second half of the season on loan from Peterborough. He probably, I'd say, arguably got the best move out of everyone who moved on the summer following promotion. He got a move to Bolton, a fellow League One rivals at the time. Didn't set the world alight there, and didn't really set the world alight at Peterborough either. And then obviously got his move on loan, which didn't seem to work out either. What did you think of him during the promotion squad and then since he returned?
First half of the promotion season, he was pretty invisible. In all honesty, he was the one that kind of forced his way into that playoff running team. He came up with some really good goals, right, from outside the box. He's a strange one, Lolos, because I don't really know what he is. He tends to play as a 10, but he's quite a big lad, so there's a tendency, what we saw in the second half of this year when he came back, was for Scott to kind of try and use him as a bit of a target man. I don't think he's quite got the game for that. He's most effective when he's running at people. He's obviously quite a big presence, but he's quite fast. He's quite technical. Was great in that promotion run. And like you, yeah, he probably got the biggest move in terms of the club that he moved on to. It didn't work at Bolton. They've obviously moved him on to Peterborough in the summer. That's then not worked, and he's come back. A couple of goals for us since he came back. Didn't appear in a squad under Colin, I don't think. Might have been on the bench. But certainly didn't play a lot of football under Colin. Obviously, there was a lot of hype around him coming back, and then maybe over exuberance, I don't know, got himself sent off on his second debut for the club, which then meant he missed 3 games, which really didn't help the situation we were in at the time. And I don't know. I mean, look, he's I've always tried to balance the argument, because there was a lot of negativity about the fact that we sold all these players on, right? I'm a realist. The way you get players to come and play for Crawley Town Football Club is you probably have to agree to have some kind of fee release clause in their contract. So if that number is then hit, if that number is then met, your hands are tied and it's up to the player if they move. Obviously, we can make them a counter offer, but it's still up to the player at the end of the day. And an argument that I feel has been fairly justified since some of these guys came back this year, and that was that a lot of these players probably would never be worth that amount of money again, right? That would probably be the pinnacle of their careers and the pinnacle of us being able to kind of get the money out of them. And we've done it, look back through time, it's happened time and time again at Crawley. We've sold Matt Tubbs for a lot of money to Bournemouth and it didn't work for him. We sold Max Waters for a lot of money and it didn't work out for him. These players are no different. Obviously, that Crawley team was built specifically to play together, essentially. So then you take one piece of that and try and put it in another team. It doesn't necessarily kind of work. But yeah, I like Clydie, but yeah, he's given his age, his career seems to be going in the wrong direction at the moment.
Yeah, an interesting one, because I actually think he was overrated in the promotion season. I actually think off the ball he didn't do a lot. He reminds me a bit of a Messi sort of character who doesn't do a lot off the ball. He sort of strolls around the pitch and then he ends up with the ball at his feet and can produce a little bit of magic, but he seems to have lost that spark and that edge in front of goal since moving on. And obviously it didn't work out since he came back.
No, and I wonder if part of that with a player like Clydie is a confidence thing. It's having a run in the team. It's having that belief in the 10 players around you that they're going to pick up all that slack, right? And unfortunately, the back end of this season, we didn't have room for passengers, and we didn't have room for luxury players. We needed guys that are going to roll their sleeves up and get their hands dirty. And like I say, when he sort of tried to do that, it ended in a stupid red card, really, which just doesn't help. On we move.
Well, he is been made available for transfer by
publicly available on Facebook.
Yeah. So we'll see where he ends up next. But yeah, so Orsi is our final player of the starting 11.
Okay.
he's another player that has returned back to Crawley on a permanent basis, but has been with a few clubs in between. He left for Burton in the summer following. I know his option within his contract was triggered that season, that summer, and then obviously Burton met sort of maybe the requirements that they needed to financially to be able to purchase him. So he moved on there. I then think he went on loan to NK Dons when Scott Lindsay was there in the January. And then moved on to Wimbledon before
that's
coming back
controversial, isn't it? To play for both the Dons.
I think the thing is, at Wimbledon particularly, he struggled because his style of play didn't suit the system. And that's why I think he particularly struggled. And I think when he came back, I think he touched on it in his first interview, how he wanted, he felt like that team, that one promotion, should have been given a go. So I feel like he felt there was some unfinished business there. But
so
yeah.
let's do this slightly in reverse. So I think if you listen, he got off to a good start at Burton. I remember when he moved. I remember he was on Sky Sports News announcing the move himself, which I thought was really strange. He hit the ground running at Burton. He got a couple of goals. Quietened off. I don't know if they changed manager that season, but like you say, he then went to MK Dons under Scott. He got a few goals. Obviously, it wasn't long under Scott at MK Dons, and then he found himself out of the team. AFC Wimbledon move seemed sensible at the time, but like you say, in hindsight, maybe the style of play didn't suit him. And then comes back, one goal. I think we saw him try and play a very different role under Scott when he came back, in terms of he was dropping a lot deeper. He wasn't playing on the shoulder of the last man. There were games where he barely had a shot. Then got injured in Colin's first game, right? And was then out. So it will be interesting to see how he's utilised in a Colin team that's more attack-minded and moves forward. I think he's one where I do still think there's a future, and I do think, the shirt's on the wall behind me. He is a great guy around the place. He's become a kind of leader, similar to Jay as well. Maybe he's had that move or moves. It's not worked. Maybe the grass isn't necessarily greener. Listen, he did say to me on the last day of the season when he signed that shirt that he wants the 9 back next year. So I think it's very much in his mind that he'll be here. Going back to the promotion season, what can you say? Started quite slowly. Did not look like he was going to be a prolific goal scorer or finisher. I think it was publicly discussed by both Dan and Scott at the time in the kind of press in the run up to the League Two final that they had done a lot of work with him on his finishing, on his positioning. Under WAGME, the data had identified a player, and then that was refined on the training pitch. And I think he finished that season with 22, 23 goals, something like that.
Yeah, I think 25 in all competitions.
Wow, right. And he didn't really start scoring until quite late on in that season. It wasn't like the first weekend he was banging them in. Hat trick in the second leg at MK Dons, wasn't it? Goal in the final. Listen, incredible. Again, anytime you've got a striker that's going to score 25 goals, as I say, we've seen it historically with Matt Tubbs, with Max Watters. If you've got a player that can score goals at any level of football, eventually someone's eyes are going to kind of come that way, right? And although I struggle to see how and understand how, Burton obviously have a bigger budget than us. They, arguably a bigger club. I don't understand sort of how, but Dan obviously felt that was the move for him. Like you say, the clause was triggered in his contract. I don't know. You would assume we made him an offer to stay, but he moved on. I think he's what 29, 30 now.
30, yeah.
So there's still a few years in that guy left. He's got a couple of years left on his deal now at Crawley. Hopefully he comes back stronger from the injury. If not, I've heard very good things about his commentary that he was doing towards the end of the season.
Yeah, no, it was good.
Yeah, so he's welcome on our pod anytime he wants.
Shout out there if you're watching, Dan. But yeah, Ronan Darcy, a player that continued after we'd secured promotion to League One, but departed in January and went to Wigan, fellow League One side Wigan Athletic. He then went on loan to Chesterfield for the first half of last season before coming back to us in January. Another player similar to Clardy who didn't work out for him second time round. But what did you make of him during the promotion season? Because I think he's sort of a bit of a mixed bag. He wasn't necessarily regular all the time.
No.
But he was energetic. He got around the pitch well. And I think he had a combined sort of total about 12 goal involvements with goals and assists.
Listen, I have real mixed views on Ronan as a player, as a person, as a human being, as a guy. I think he's a great guy. Always got time for people. We'll stop and have a chat, and I really like that. I'll caveat that with he was very poorly the night of the celebrations and disappeared into the changing room quite early and was never seen again. But look, he's a great guy. I'm with you. He was someone I was aware of pre-Crawley Town. So I think whenever that happens, whenever we sign a player that maybe the name is known, it's a bit like we maybe expect a bit more from them compared to these guys that at the time we were plucking out of non-league, right? Ronan was a name. Yeah, he was a bit in and out the team. He was definitely at his most productive in that campaign, whether that was a start, whether it was coming off the bench. I always felt like League One was maybe a step too far for him in our squad. He maybe needed to do too much work in the Rob Elliott team, and he did sort of drop back into a slightly deeper role. But I did also, I might be completely off the mark here, I got the sense and a feeling that he was kind of like, well, I'm the one that's been left behind, right? Everyone else has gone and I'm the guy that's still here. So he got his move to Wigan. Didn't really work out. I mean, he had a good start of the season for Chesterfield. Obviously, he went into Chesterfield to cover for a player that was injured. That player came back in January and he was told he wasn't necessarily going to get as much football. The opportunity to come to Crawley came back on the table. He was pretty ineffective in the Scott Lindsay system, which was very strange anyway, because we had Orsi up front but dropping back into a 10, and then we had Lolos and Darcy playing as 2 10s behind the 9 that was dropping into the 10. So it felt confused and it looked confused, and it felt like at times we were trying to shoehorn too many players into the same areas. For whatever reason, I know there has been some speculation as to why or why not. Ronan didn't feature under Colin, along with kind of Clyde. So I don't sort of expect to see him back because he was pretty sort of ineffective this season. And, I think part of the move to Wigan, part of the reason for the move to Wigan initially was maybe to go back up sort of north, more towards home. So we'll see. We'll see where he lands. But yeah, I wouldn't be rushing out to sign him. I think, similar to Clyde, we've also seen Wigan put him publicly available for transfer on Facebook.
Yeah.
So, we'll see where he lands. But yeah, based on the fact that obviously Colin's now in as manager and didn't pick him, I don't suppose for 1 minute he's going to sign him.
Yeah. Adiemo, one of the only players to sort of be part of that promotion squad and then remain on at the club without going anywhere else. I like Addy. I think he hasn't ever been able to really cement a place down in the starting 11. I think maybe he is inconsistent at times, has a few defensive liabilities when playing at wing-back under Scott's system, but definitely someone who is exciting to watch, will take on players. When he gets into the box, you just think someone's going to bring him down and Crawley going to get a penalty. And that's the sort of feeling I get when he gets into the box, and I think that's when he's at his most dangerous.
I agree with you. I think there's a player in there. Maybe looks a little bit out of his depth in League One at times, but that was a difficult team and a difficult time. Similar to kind of this season. I think we touched on it in the previous podcast. Obviously he adapted to this kind of right wing back role. I think towards the end of the season he definitely got better defensively. He's always been at his best when he's attacking and when he's running at people. That comes with a confidence that he gets better at that the more he's in a team. But then you look at the teams that he's played in, there have been more effective players in his position, whether it be Jeremy Kelly, Dion Pereira. There's always been something in front that he's not been able to kind of break down. I like him. I think he's a great guy to have in the squad, a great player to have in the squad. He offers a real versatility. But yeah, I think he probably really needs to kick on this season in terms of his productivity, or maybe he's one that moves on end of the kind of coming season if it doesn't quite work for him.
Jack Rolls, another player who wasn't really ever able to cement a place in the starting 11. It's a shame, Jack Rolls, because he had both the club and himself both agreed that it was best that his contract be sort of terminated in January. In the National League North, they were one game away from securing promotion to National League. So he sort of had an exciting promotion push to look forward to as part of South Shields. But he became known as sort of the EFL trophy kind of star. Those are sort of games where he really shined. What did you make of Jack?
Again, I think I said this before as well. Like, we have a real affinity with our players because they're there. We can interact with them, so we love them all anyway, right? And Jack's no exception to that. He was never able to nail on a kind of starting position. Like you say, he would play in the EFL trophy games. He'd maybe bang in a couple of worldies, and then he wouldn't get a start the next week. And I always used to think that's a bit strange. But he was someone that would take a shot from outside the box. He had the ability to finish from outside the box. He was an exciting player. And I was really surprised at the move to National League North, because I felt for sure that there was a player in there. And obviously He did spend a bit of time on loan last season at Gateshead in the National League as well, didn't he? So, yeah, I mean, look, I think I said it at the start, perennial substitute, right? He would come on. I always felt like he gave 110%, but he just couldn't break that barrier for whatever reason.
And then finally, Nick Cerula, I think one of the had the most sort of success since moving on. Mm-hmm. A massive fan favourite. His name was used in conjunction with a rendition of Tequila.
Yes. Still is when he comes back.
Still is, yeah. Absolutely love Nick. Really sad when he moved on. He had a bit of competition in that promotion season in the wing back area. Before that, I thought that sort of role was it was his own.
Yeah, he got injured, didn't he, and lost it for a bit. But yeah, 100%. I mean, listen, there's a lot of love for Nick Cerula. There's a lot of people in and around the ground that I think still admire what he's doing. Obviously, good season this season, good playoff run with Notts County. So yeah, I mean, look, let's wait and see where it takes us.
Yeah, exactly. So that has completed the starting 11 and the substitutes that came on that memorable day at Wembley. But one sort of final question really was if we were able to keep that cohort of players, if we were able to keep the core members of that squad, do you think that Crawley would still be in League One?
I think I touched on it earlier on. I don't think those players would have ever been worth what they were worth again at that point. I think if you look at their careers since moving on, a lot of those players did continue in League One and haven't set the world alight, and then have come back into League Two this year and still not been able to kind of produce anything like what was required at that level. I don't know. I mean, look, you know, the side that we had last year, there was some really, really good players in it. Kamari Doyle, Bradley Ibrahim. So, you know, where would you perhaps fit all of these people in? And don't forget, you know, I know we look back and go, look, we came out League One, but we went down by a point, right? So would that have been different if we had Liam Kelly in the middle? Maybe. Would it have been different with Orsi up front? I don't think it would. Would it have been the same situation if Will Wright had been in the back line? Yes, probably. So there was a lot of problems in the League One campaign. And ultimately, I still think the biggest challenge that we had in that season was the fact that Scott went. Obviously, Rob Elliott came in. I could see the logic behind that appointment. I wasn't against it at the time. It was a fairly logical appointment. It just didn't work, and bit like Ruben Amorim at Man United, he was sort of married to this system and this style of play, Rob Elliott, and that didn't help us out.
Yeah, I think you touched on it. There's loads of different variables, and you can't really. It's not really. It's hard to say whether it's a yes or no, really, whether we've been able to stay up, because there were so many different factors that would have affected that. But here we are, ready for another season of League Two. Let's get those transfers rolling in.
Absolutely. Just on that point, while we've been talking, Glenn Morris has signed for Dorking Wanderers.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about that one, to be honest. Could see him ending up there. But yeah.
I'm surprised at that, because he still looked a good keeper when we played Gillingham. So, but yeah, look, hopefully next one of these we'll be talking about some sort of incomings. You know, I think the the guys are off on their holidays at the moment, and yeah, excited to see who comes in and how a new team will look. It's been really nice to reminisce about a great day.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully many more to come.
Well, if you're still watching, if you got to this point, give us a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed watching. Thank you for joining me, Bradley, today.
Pleasure, Asa, as always.
And take care.
Thank you.
Till next time.